Once again, thank you all for joining us. This is Nuance. I'm Mike Scala. We'll be talking about Governor Hochul coming under fire for recent remarks that she made. But I would like to introduce our co-hosts, our guests, however you want to call it. Of course, we got Jay Carter, also known as Timid, the hip hop MC and the chair of BLM Tokyo. What's going on, with you, Jay?
Oh man, just getting up and at 'em. Um since it's 8 a.m. over here.
Yeah.
Um
You have a pre-breakfast this week? You know that was the thing last
I,
time.
I did not have a pre-breakfast this week. I had a breakfast this week, so I did get up before it was time to actually get on camera. So I had a breakfast this week, but it wasn't as satisfying as it usually is. So
Why is
I'm
that?
a little the grocery store switched brand of almond milk and it just doesn't taste as good. It's just ugh. I'm not a milk fan, period. And so like I'm sensitive to the taste and it's just ugh. It's a little bit more milk tasting and that's just gross to me.
Let me ask you real quick. The grocery stores where you're at, are they similar to stores in the US? Because I hear about people in Europe often going to the grocery stores here and getting confused because they're so much bigger and they're used to mostly corner stores and smaller places.
Well, the one near me is a smaller one.
Mm.
Um it's not super massive. It's probably about on the same, it's not that much different. I don't know if you remember the grocery store that was in Valley Stream that I used to go to. I don't know if you ever went with me there, but it was probably a little bit bigger than that grocery store.
You mean
Um,
like King Cullen or something?
no, 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 that was the big one. There
Yeah,
was one, there was one right there on Sunrise, not Sunrise Highway, the one that was off of
I know
Sunrise
what you're talking
Highway.
about. Mitchell's or something like that, right?
I don't remember the name of it, but yeah,
Yeah,
there was
yeah,
one there, and that's where I shopped at primarily. And it's a little, the one that I go to here now is a little bit bigger than that, I
right.
think.
So for
Um,
comparison, the one that you're talking about probably smaller than the typical Trader Joe's, around
Probably,
that, right?
but
Yeah,
but there are full size that we would consider full size grocery stores. I've seen those too, so it's not, it's not that different, you know.
it's just kind of funny because I hear people from Europe coming over and they have this thing apparently where they tend to go to 7-Eleven a lot when they come to the US. And they say it's because I guess there's a store called 7-Eleven over there. I don't know, but it reminds them of back home because they're not used to the big mega store, right? Like they would see a supermarket that we're used to, and that's a big mega store because they
Right,
don't drive as much, especially in a lot of those European cities. And so
right,
they're not going to drive to a big store and load up a car with groceries. They're just going to get a few things. And so it tends
right.
to be a smaller operation. And so then they make funny comments like, how come your grocery stores in the US have all expired vegetables and fruits and just single package cheese? And like, well, yeah, you're shopping in a 7-Eleven and calling that a grocery store.
Right, right. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not a big difference
Yeah.
really. The ones in the States are probably bigger. I would say the ones in the States would have more variety.
Mhm.
I see a lot of the same things from different companies, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like, for example, there'd be like half an aisle or a quarter of an aisle of just different soy sauce.
Okay.
It's like that's a lot of space for soy sauce. You know, it's
Yeah.
like a bunch of different companies. But it makes kind of sense because it's a cornerstone of their
Right. For the cuisine.
of their cuisine. So there's stuff like that, you know.
Okay. Well,
So
I want to bring on Rohan. I know he was on a couple weeks ago and said he wanted to come back to join the discussion again. We had spoken about the events that
whoop.
he's doing in Ozone Park with the stand-up comedy and open mics, but he said he would like to join us for a discussion on the other issues that we're going to be talking about. So welcome back to the show, Rohan Nareen.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just really concerned because does not have his almond milk anymore. This is that's a big thing. I think we should
I
talk about
appreciate
that.
Yeah.
that.
It's going to throw the
Yeah.
whole show off balance, right? It's going to disturb the equilibrium of nuance.
It's
Uh,
screwing me
I
up.
between, I mean, in America, there's 50 different types of cereal: Frosted Flakes, Mini Wheats, Fruit Loops, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Captain Crunch. I can go down the list, Golden Grams. right? But you can't eat none of them if you don't have the right milk,
That's true.
you
You know?
know?
Did you
So
see the Seinfeld movie Unfrosted that just came out about the Pop Tart?
I
no,
did not.
because he spoke at Duke and people walked out. I was more in tune to that.
Okay.
So then Frost did. But and then Mike, thank you for inviting me. Um, I just found out that you don't like cheese. So I have to sign off in 10 seconds after that because, and I don't know how you did it as an Italian. How could you have survived not liking cheese? This is crazy.
Because
It,
I'm a
How
it's
did you
kind of
do it?
crazy, but
difference.
he'll eat pizza.
Yeah, I'll eat pizza begrudgingly. There's a difference between Southern Italians and Northern Italians, right? The cheese is really more characteristic of Northern Italian cuisine. It comes from the Alps and that whole influence. In Southern Italy, my family's from Rome. From Rome, what do I say Rome for? Naples and Sicily. I don't know where Rome came from. Uh, in Naples and Sicily, in Southern Italy, is more about seafood, and that's what I like. I like shellfish. I love Lenny's Clam Bar and loading up on clams. That's my jam.
Oh, because they have eggplant parmesan at
Hate it.
Lenny's.
Oh, eggplant
Oh,
parmesan's
man.
awesome.
I
It
hate
is
it.
awesome. It is awesome.
It's so
No, no, no.
awesome.
I won't eat anything
Okay.
with cheese in its name or Parmesan in its name, any of that stuff.
Oh,
Chicken,
shoot.
it's gross.
And then last but not
Then you need,
least,
yeah.
Lasagna. I hate lasagna too.
Oh,
lasagna.
lasagna is so awesome.
Oh my
Easy.
gosh.
But here's the
I
thing,
mean,
pizza, I've got a funny relationship because I eat pizza now and I love New Park pizza. I love certain pizza. But when I was a kid, I didn't like pizza and I wasn't sure why. I didn't really understand that I didn't like cheese yet when I was a kid.
Mm.
So I was like, I don't really like this. And then the cheese would sometimes fall off and I would think, oh, pizza is better now, right? Just a sauce and a bread. Without the cheese, it tastes so much better. And as I've gotten older, I've grown to appreciate pizza more. But the mozzarella that's on pizza doesn't taste very cheesy. So I can live with that, right? I can do cheeseburgers too. It's more about a texture for me. But I noticed that the
Mm.
slices that have less cheese are more appealing to me. Like I love the New Haven
Mm.
pizza that's really thin and crispy. And if you get the sauce pie that doesn't really have cheese with it, to me that's the best. I love that.
Mm. I love a
So
good sauce.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love a good sauce. Yeah.
wow. Wow, I
Yeah.
could
So
you will win your first election when you begin to love cheese, Mike. I mean, you have to fall in love with cheese. You got to bribe yourself and
uh,
love this thing.
I get it though. There is a it's cheese. When I was younger, I used to love cheese. If I wanted like for pizza, I would want extra cheese, right? Now I want extra sauce instead of cheese.
Mm.
There is a taste in cheese that you can I can see where someone might not like it in certain, especially certain cheeses. They have that little funky taste to
yeah,
it and
yeah,
whatnot.
yeah.
Yeah, some of it, yeah, it's just yeah, it's
I'm
not
very
that good.
sensitive to that sensation. It reminds me of like stinky feet or something, or food that went bad. It just doesn't
Right,
taste
right, right.
right. It tastes like rotten food to me, and I
Oh,
think
it
that's
is.
hereditary.
It technically is.
Right. And I'm really sensitive to that. I think it's hereditary, though. No one in my family I've been able to find doesn't like cheese also, but whatever gene I'm inheriting, you know what I mean? Like there's something in my DNA, I think, that makes me that way.
Wow. Wow. Well, before we transition over to the important stuff with the Governor Hochul,
This is
definitely.
important. This is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, this is important too. This is important. This I was on Yahoo. I'm always a big fan of Yahoo News. Do you know the governor? I think it was of Montana. I think has published a book. Was it Christy Noem, Governor Noem, that had blatant lies inside, and she went from being Trump's potential running mate to I don't think she was not even in the running anymore.
Oh, wait, you're talking about actually Christy Noem or the governor of Montana?
Is she the governor of
I know
Montana?
she was North Dakota or
North
South
Dakota, North
Yeah,
Dakota,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Dakotas.
yeah. And she shot her dog. You probably know about this.
Yes.
Like
Right,
20 years. She
She
told a
bragged
story
about that in the book.
20
right.
years ago. 20 years ago,
Yeah.
I don't, and I think the more she tells the story, the more aggressive the dog is. But it was just a regular house dog. It was a domesticated dog, and there was no reason to do that. And then she wrote about it, and it was just like political
But you say that there were
foreshadowing.
lies in the book? I didn't
And
get that.
cheese reminded you of that?
Um, and yeah, I just, then she's claimed she met Kim Jong-un and shook his and like
Oh,
stared him down, and there was no way in hell they could have come into contact with each other or like been in human contact with each other. So, yeah, the cheese brought that out in me, Jay. My,
I'm just trying to see the connection there. Are we saying that
yeah,
we should be wary of Mike and dogs or something because of the no cheese thing?
Oh,
I
come
think I think the connection I guess I'm trying to make is uh after we transition out of this, there's a lot more important things to talk about than the governor of North Dakota
By the way, it's
losing her
South Dakota,
chances.
just for the
South
record.
Dakota, oh, South
Yeah.
Dakota.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I am never amazed how low some politicians can go. So
By the way,
Yes.
elected Queens County Committee, let's not crap on that. I'm about to be reelected in June, even though no one's running against me, and winner of the Democratic primary for City Council. So I think I've gotten far enough not liking cheese. Maybe maybe if I start eating more, we'll go even further. I don't know. I don't know if there's a cheese electoral politics link or not.
we should have like a cheese competition for in like a cheese eat off. Like whoever's going to eat the most cheese,
A
would get funded
charcuterie board would be like your fiercest competition.
something, or like a request for like an RFP for someone who can just eat cheese. Anyway, I digress. I
Well,
digress. I'm just
speaking of
sad
cheese,
that I'm
speaking
sad
of
they
cheese,
yeah,
here's the
go for it.
segue. Speaking of cheese, I am glad to know we talked before we went on the air. Neither one of us has listened to any of the Drake or Kendrick disses. So I think we can count that as a victory.
I listened to it all. I listened to it all. And I'm not even like a big Drake or Kendrick fan. I'm a hip hop fan. I like the competition aspect of it.
I don't like being
And
manipulated. I felt like that was very manipulative to get
I
people
think
to
this
these
is
disses.
legitimate. This is legit. This is they don't like each other. This is and it's what's crazy is I think it might have spoiled everyone for future beefs. I mean, because within 1 week, they must have put out like 7 diss tracks to each other. Like, before, like someone would put a diss track and then you'd wait like a month or so before the response could happen. Now, I mean, Drake dropped one, or Kendrick dropped one, and like 12 hours later, Drake dropped another. And then like 30 minutes after that, Kendrick responded. Like, the next beef that happens in hip hop, people are, they've got a lot of pressure on their necks. People are like, oh, you haven't responded in an hour. You
Right,
lost. You're
right, right,
whack. Like, I
right,
think people
right.
are going to be spoiled.
That's gonna be
So,
the bar right there, right? Like I dropped something on you, and you took 2.5 hours to get back to me. Game over. Like I win already. You took too long.
right, right. It's like, yeah, that, it's crazy. So,
And
Kind
that
of sounds
again,
like
that speaks to the fast foodization, right, of our culture,
right,
hip hop. Everybody wants everything now, now, now. It's quantity over quality.
right. And we would see that in singles. I remember like one of my last singles drop and I would I'd get like messages like 2 days after, like, oh, when's your next one? Like, yo, can this one breathe a little bit? Like,
Yeah,
like let
yeah,
the song rock a little bit before talking about where's the next one already. Like, come
right,
on,
right.
what's going
And as
on?
an artist, I gotta say that is really grating. No pun
Yeah,
intended. Cheese, but you spend so much time working on something, right? Like think about that.
yeah,
You pour your heart into a song or an album, a project of any kind, and you want someone to treat it seriously. You know they're not going to listen to it as much as the time you spent putting into it, but still, you want them to treat it with some kind of regard, as if it's something that you
yeah.
put your heart and soul into, not just play it once and be like, all right, when's the next one? Because if people have that mentality, then as the artist, you're thinking, well, why am I spending any time at all on this stuff?
Right. And we've had that kind of conversation before, especially when we see what comes out and we're
Yeah,
like, we're putting all this time into
right,
lyrics and this and that, and someone just comes out with just like some nonsense ABC 1 2 3 thing. It's like, why are we focusing
right.
so much on the lyrics and
Yeah,
mix and all that?
or even the mixing, right? You're trying to get the sound just right. I'm killing myself playing it in every single system possible. I got a little Bluetooth speaker to check it there. I'm in the car. I'm in the studio monitors, the headphones, the earbuds everywhere, phones, laptops. I'm thinking, why am I spending all this time on this if someone's just going to listen to it once? But then I think, all right, but if they do hear it once, I don't know which system they're going to play it in. So I want to make sure
Right.
that one time sounds good.
Right. Yeah.
It's just you put so much into this for what? It's a sad story, but I think we need to get back to appreciating the art more.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So,
yeah, my
yeah.
2 cents on it. I stopped listening to hip hop. I was a big Wu-Tang fan. I mean, 36 Chambers, my favorite album. I
Mm.
think probably of all time. It was just so diverse, and each one of those members they branched off to create solo careers. So you can't really say that a lot for a lot of hip hop groups. But me, when I was just my 2 cents, I loved Outkast. I mean, Andre 3000 is still winning Grammys, I heard. I don't know, but he just came out with like a
The
mix of
Flute
all
album?
flutes.
That one a
Yeah,
Grammy? Best flute album? All
I
right.
don't know, something, yeah. So he's still killing
Yeah,
it. I'm glad to hear that. But like a Janet Jackson album when I was a kid, that was one CD and that almost touched 80 minutes, right? So
right.
now you have like Kanye West puts out 10 tracks, you're barely touching 29 minutes, 28 minutes. So you don't even get a lot anymore.
Yeah.
So I think
Right.
we've, going, it goes back to what you said, Mike. We're living in an age of quantity over quality.
Fine.
And
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. I don't even know that there were 10 diss tracks between the two of them in a matter
And
of a week. That's crazy.
yeah, and that mentality is kind of pushed also by some of the industry. Like the president of Spotify had said in one of his quotes, and people like took him to task or was upset about it. And he said that when people talk about how low artists are getting paid for streams of their music, his response was, "No, just release more music. Just keep putting up more. Just keep putting up more."
Right.
Right. So the more you have out there, even at the low payment, you'll just have more options for getting that payment so you can make more money. Just put more
Yeah.
music in it.
Yeah.
Instead of paying you more, yeah, just
Right.
put out quantity.
Right. Well, think about it from their perspective. It's just as good. It's even better, right? A million
Right,
artists,
because it
songs. Maybe they have one hit per song, but it's still a million hits now versus just a few
right.
artists trying to get those hits up.
Yeah. So yeah, that whole quantity versus,
Yeah.
quality is definitely been pushed by the industry.
Yeah. Well, I still want to have good quality, and maybe it's a personal
Yes.
point of pride, but
Yeah.
as I complete my music now, even I want to be able to be proud enough of the music
Mhm.
to want to promote it, right? I mean, if I finish it and it's a rush job and I'm like, I could have done better, I'm not going to be promoting it that hard, right? I'm not going to be hitting up everyone I know. Hey, listen to this, trying to get it places, right? Trying to get on different shows or podcasts. I'm not going to do it if I'm not proud of it. So I want to put
Right.
that time into it so that it stands up to me. It passes my own quality control tests, even if
Right.
most people might not have those same standards. And I think it's a good idea for all of us to strive to increase the quality wherever we can, right? Let's push
Absolutely.
back against this notion that it's all about quantity and quality doesn't matter anymore.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
agreed. Yeah, good points, Mike. Well said.
So, all right, well, let's see if we agree on this controversy over the governor because there was an assemblywoman in the Bronx, I believe her name is Septimo, who really, really pushed back against the statement that the governor made. She was speaking on Empire AI, right, and opportunities to get AI jobs and access, computer job access to people throughout the state, not just communities that have historically enjoyed these opportunities, but even areas like in the Bronx, which is the example that she brought up. And she said something that she now has apologized for, which was that Black kids in the Bronx oftentimes don't even know what a computer is. And I think the point that she was trying to make was that they don't have access, right? Because she was saying we want to get more jobs to folks, and especially to communities that don't normally get them. But the way that she said it did attract a certain amount of ire. And then you had this assemblywoman in the Bronx who really, I think, pushed back on it. We can discuss what her political agenda might have been there. I know Al Sharpton said that he gave her a pass on it, gave the governor a pass on it, and she was trying to say that she wanted more access for people. But some people, didn't take it that way, and they are even calling her a racist. I think there's a petition on change.org for her to be impeached over this. So people are
Wow.
really running with the story right now.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I saw the comment and I saw the video. Yeah, I think she rightly should have apologized, and I believe she did in a statement, and then clarified what she was talking about, as you mentioned, regarding access.
Mhm.
May not have the same access. So now impeachment, that's probably a little bit too far. I haven't seen any petitions or anything on that, but um, yeah, she definitely should have been called out for it, like she was.
See, I don't know, Rohan, what do you think?
I think that, I used to work for the mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio, before Eric Adams. And sometimes public figures, the higher you go, the easier of a target you are. And that I think holds true for mayors as well as governors.
Mm.
Um, was it a slip up? Was it a verbal slip up? I think I find Governor Hochul to be very calculated. I know she's a very smart person, so I don't think that was her intention. Um, However, with that said, this is New York City, so there's anywhere from 6 to 8 million people here from over 200 different nationalities speaking over 300 languages. Someone's going to feel a bit upset about this, definitely. And, I think it's a bit wrong to say that some New Yorkers don't know what a computer is. I think, we all have Google, right? We all have technically a smartphone as a computer. So, but I kind of agree with Jay. This isn't something that's going to be career ending. Waving a white flag and walking with the head of shame out of here. But you got kind of have to learn from your mistakes. Maybe leave it to ChatGPT to write your speech.
Right? Since we're talking about AI here, I agree that it was inartful, perhaps, but I also feel like the whole context was immediately removed from the quote. In fact, when I was trying to find the quote just now before we went live, I was Googling the different articles. They all seem to take it out of context. And all I can find is the quote about Black kids don't know what computers are. And they don't talk about the whole context of what she was saying, which was we're trying to get more opportunities to communities that historically have not had them. And I think that's important. I think intent is important as well. And when we're so quick to point fingers, look, I know a lot of people doing this didn't like the governor in the first place. So they were looking for ways to try to attack her and bring her down. Yeah, what she's saying is we want more opportunities for these neighborhoods in the Bronx. You have your local assembly member in the Bronx just using it as a way to gain political points against the governor instead of embracing that help and actually helping her constituents. I mean, I think in one way, this is a counterproductive way to go about this because you're taking the context out of the governor's statement, you're disregarding the intent. It's like a gotcha moment, right? You're saying, aha, we caught you saying something you shouldn't have said. And you're going to let your constituents suffer because what's going to happen now is probably going to be a feud, if you wish, or some kind of dispute, some kind of tension, at least, between now the governor and these local elected officials. And maybe the suffering will continue, right? Because maybe the resources won't be delivered from the state if this tension continues.
Yeah, it sounds like an excuse.
Excuse.
I'm not gonna say that she went into it intentionally with this idea, but you don't just say that, oh, we're just gonna ignore that she said it. She
But
said it and she needs to
ignore,
address it.
you're going to ignore the context?
No, I'm not ignoring the context. She's right. There needs to be better access. Often, certain neighborhoods, certain income level areas have less access than others. And yeah, that absolutely needs to be addressed. But she said specifically, there are Black kids growing up in the Bronx that don't know what computers are. That is not a something that you just pass over. Now, she can apologize for it, say that she misspoke, and then get on with what she was talking about. But we
Right.
can't just ignore that she said it.
It just seems like it's a way to try to attack her when she actually should be praised for the message of what she was trying to say. Someone could have pulled her aside and say, hey, maybe you could express that in a better way, but to make a political stunt out of it, right?
I think
That's
it's
what was done.
warranted. Yeah, it's warranted. She said specifically Black kids. Like
Yeah.
there was that thought was specifically
But it's
there.
hyperbole. I think, not to know exactly
It's
what
not
was in her head.
hyperbole.
It is, I think it's hyperbole because
To say that Black kids don't know what the word computer is. She
what's the
said don't know
context?
what the word computer is.
Because what's the context, right? You're taking it literally. What is the
Yeah.
context of this, right? Saying, for example, that in many of these schools, the resources aren't there. They don't get computer labs. How come when you go to good neighborhoods, you see schools with state-of-the-art technology, computer labs, all have iPads, and then you go to some of these underserved areas and they don't have any of that. That's why I think the
Sure.
context behind they don't even know what a computer is. Like in other words, they haven't even seen this because they don't have the luxury that kids in other neighborhoods have.
She could have just said they don't have the luxury that other kids in other neighborhoods has. She said black kids growing up in the Bronx don't know what the word computer is.
I think she said there
So
are
she's
kids. I don't know if she said all of them. I think she said there are. She said we have
yeah, she
black
said we have young black kids in the
growing up in the
Bronx that
Bronx.
don't know what the word computer is. They don't know. They don't know these things,
Right.
right? That was where her
What if
quote
okay?
was.
What if the
Now,
quote was
again,
what if the quote was we have young black kids growing up in the Bronx who haven't seen a computer?
I still like that's still not, it's not as bad.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying
Yeah.
let's string her up and burn her at the stake. I'm saying it was
Because isn't it
appropriate
kind of
that
ironic? I mean, her whole message was we want more access to these communities, and everyone was like,
yeah,
"She's a racist, killer, impeach her." I mean, she's actually trying to
I'm
help.
not saying that. I'm saying that she should have rightly addressed it and cleared up her statement. And she later said in a statement, "I misspoke and I regret it." Okay, that's fine. Let's move on with that. But
Right.
I don't think we should ignore that she said it.
But isn't there a message now of the entire point being lost? Because what are we talking about? We're talking about her word, right? Parsing her words, her language, her rhetoric. What
Yeah, but
is
it's not just that sentence. It's everything that comes with that sentence. It's the idea that that perpetuates this idea that black people or black kids are less than or less intelligent than don't understand these things. Oh, they don't know what computer is.
I think
Like
you're
it's
reading
it
into it. I don't think that was
of
the message
course,
at
you
all.
have to read into it because that's part of the environment of the country. That's part of the stereotypical ideas of people in the country, of black people in the country, that they don't have a certain intelligence. They don't know how to do this. Oh, those people don't know that. And so
That wasn't what
this
she was
feeds
talking
into
about,
it.
though. But that's not what she was talking about.
But
Again, you're
that's
saying
what she
in order to have
absolutely taking into it.
that reading, you have to take her words out of context.
Hmm.
No, you have to also you also have to read the room and understand the environment. She can't just come in and say something like that and not understand the environment, not understand what America says about black people in general.
But that
Like,
was kind of her whole
yes, she
point
made a
that this area is
mistake.
underserved. That was her whole point, right? That they deserve more
Say
resources.
that. Then
She
say
did
that
say that, but that's not the point that's being covered.
because that's not what she said.
She did say it.
She said it afterwards.
No,
But
that
this
was
is when
no,
her
no, no.
statement. This was in her
Originally,
statement.
that was part of her original statement. She didn't just come out and be like, by the way, I think black people don't know what the word computer means. That wasn't the statement. She was talking
Right.
about she was talking about AI, right? And Empire AI, this program,
Yes.
right? And how we want to have more access to these jobs and this technology to these kids and their underserved areas. That was all part of the statement. And so just
Sure.
a little piece of it was taken out of context. Sure, that was inartful in the way it was phrased, but to read into it that she's trying to say that people are stupid, no, she's saying that they don't have the resources that they need.
Then say that.
He did say that though. That's
Instead of what she said. The other part that which she said about them not knowing what the even the word computer is. Like, don't even say that.
right.
She's
Yeah,
messing up her own message, if that's the point.
right. Right.
Like, say that.
Yeah.
So I'm not like again, I'm not saying string her up and let's
Yeah.
burn her at the stake. I'm saying that still address what you said and move forward because regardless if that was your intention or not, that does perpetuate a certain image and stereotype,
It
and
was
you as
against
a governor
right.
have to take that
So,
into account.
Brohan, I know you got to run, but
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I think Jay. So, correct me if I'm wrong. What you're saying is because she's the governor of New York, especially, she is in a position where her words may be taken out of context, and the story could become that part of it, even if. When reading the whole statement, the entirety of what she said, clearly that's not what she meant. It almost doesn't matter what she meant because that becomes the story.
And that she needs to be more careful with her words if that's not what her real intention is. And I've said it before. People in certain positions, whether you're certain positions of responsibility and authority, you do have a bigger
Yeah.
responsibility. You have, she's got more people listening to her. And so it's not a good statement to make, period. But for her to say that as the governor, she should have been more careful with her words. Again, like I'm not calling for impeachment and going
Right.
there, but I don't think it was inappropriate to have her clarify and apologize for the statement. I think
I
that
just
was
don't
fine.
like. Yeah, I don't like taking things out of context. I don't like the gotcha games. I don't like people who have a political agenda using it to further that agenda. This wasn't organic, right? This wasn't natural. Again, I feel manipulated when I look at this stuff. The same way with the rap battles. So, Rohan, give us a bottom line on this. We know you got to run. What is your bottom
Yeah, I kind of have to. I hear what you're saying, Mike, but if, if the story did boil down to this one sentence, we live in a tweeting culture, right? I
right?
mean, we only process our lives in 130 characters or less now, so we have to be really careful. But um, my crystal ball is probably saying someone like Governor Cuomo, former Governor Cuomo, is going to jump on this, and future, gubernatorial candidates are probably going to jump on this, and like you said, make a mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we'll
Yeah,
see.
I'm sure her opponents will use that, and
Right.
that
But
want to get back at her. But
they're already doing that, right? The people who are putting this out there are the ones who are already politically opposed to her. So again, this isn't like something that just happened and it's like, oh, now we have to turn against her because we're so offended by what she said. It's very performative, right? It's we didn't like her. Let's try to find something she said, take it out of context, and put it on TV or whatever, put it on tweet and say now she got to go because we caught her doing this and we're so outraged, we're so offended when you really didn't like her in the first place and you were looking for a reason to do that. But to Jay's point, and I think to Rohan's point, as the governor, she needs to be careful because she needs to know people are going to seek to do that to her.
Yeah, she's
well,
an easy
it's not
target.
that she's
Easy
gonna
target.
not just that. It's not just that people are gonna seek to do that to her, but that she has a responsibility to not to be more careful with her words when she's saying that. If that's what your intent are, what your intent is to do that, you have to read the room and understand what these communities, the situations these communities are in. And that includes the stereotypes and the impressions and all of that type of stuff. Now, imagine if it was she leaned into, even if it was an off statement about the what is it, the Hindu community. If she said something that was very stereotypical in there, and if it was just an off comment in an otherwise longer statement that you could understand what her intent was, but it was said in there, would it be any different? You'd still want her to clarify that comment.
True. I mean, typically in Hindu kids, they like build the computers, so they would probably know what the computers are.
Right.
But
And
but
the thing,
yeah,
Jay, you said you want her to clarify the comment. She did clarify the comment with everything else that was around it, but that was taken out. And so you take it out of context and say, I want you to clarify this, but you're the ones who are taking the clarity away.
No,
hmm.
but she said specifically, we have
But
young black kids growing up that don't even know what the word computer
Because the
is.
point
Like
was they don't have the resources, and she's
in
trying to
this day
direct
and
state
age,
resources to those communities so that they can better access those opportunities. That was the whole
say
point.
that.
That is
Say
what she
that.
said, but that's being removed
Don't
from the articles. That's what she
No,
said.
say that and don't say this. You can't say, well, she said the good thing and
Yeah.
then it was with the bad thing. Just don't say the
The
bad
bad
thing.
thing was her pointing out the symptom of the problem. She's not saying I'm happy this is the case, or I think that these are bad people or stupid people. She's saying they don't get the resources that they need.
If you're saying they don't even in 2024, they don't even know what the word computer is, you're saying they're kind of stupid people.
No, no, it's
Definitely are.
it's come on. We're New Yorkers. We're supposed to have an attitude. I know you're not a New Yorker, Jay, but we're supposed to have an attitude. We're not supposed to be offended by things like this. There's a
It's
message. There's a
definitely
positive message
do.
in that. There's a positive
uh,
message in what she's trying to
let
There's
say.
me
not a positive
let,
message in that.
let me run. Let me
Okay.
interrupt to just run and break the tension and
Yeah.
invite me to the next show. I love this format. I love it.
All
Invite
right.
me to the next one.
Always welcome
Thank
to
you
join
guys.
us. Thank you.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right,
Jay.
take
See you,
care.
Mike. Bye.
So the positive message, Jay,
He's gonna go eat some cheese.
is that the resources need to be
Absolutely.
to these. That's the positive message in what she was saying. So it reminds me of. So remember we've talked about curriculums in school and about how they never teach anything about local government in public
Hmm.
school. And
Right.
I've said things like I didn't even know there was a city council until afterwards. They should have taught me that in school. I didn't even know there was a community board. I didn't even know there was an assembly member. They should have taught that in school, right? It harkens to that. It's
Not really.
you guys don't even have computer labs. It's almost as if you don't even know what computers are. It's horrible. You know what I mean? She wasn't saying
That's
what's
very
happening.
different. That's very different. It's as
Not very
if you
different.
don't know
Not
what,
very
that's
different.
very different.
How is that very different?
It's as if you don't
Yeah.
know. You're setting up a premise, then
Yeah.
saying it's as if. Not, you didn't say specifically you don't know.
You're
You're saying
parsing
it's
words though.
as
You're being
if.
very technical, so it's not very different. It's
You
actually very
have to be.
similar. It's very similar.
It's not. It's very different in meaning and intention, and it feeds into different ideologies and stereotypes.
I think
That
you're putting
has to
your
be
own intention.
addressed.
You're putting your own. You're reading your own intention into it.
You have to.
Well, why
You
not
have
read her
to.
intention instead of your own?
Because she's the one that's talking about this group of people.
But she said that they need more resources. That's the intention.
Yeah, but she didn't. She also said this. Just don't say this.
Right.
Say the other stuff. Absolutely agree with you. There needs to be more resources in those areas. Absolutely. Don't say this part. That's it. Don't say this that they don't know what the word computer is. They don't know these things.
Yeah.
Like, really? Like, come on.
Yeah.
You're
I
the one
mean,
to.
I think we could all agree it was inartful based on the way that words get twisted and people look at everything so literally now, right? And that's a problem. To me, it's a problem. And it feels very manipulative and
That
performative.
would have been a problem. It even that would have been a problem in any time though. Like
Oh, okay.
it's
I
not a
disagree.
sensitive culture thing.
No,
Like
no,
this.
because we live in a soundbite world. We live in a tweet world. So people want to reduce everything you say to a very simple, easy to digest message, and they want to point figures and play gotcha and take things out of context. Yes, to a certain degree, that's always happened. But I think that it's really on steroids now, that effect, because it is such a
Sure,
soundbite culture.
sure. I agree with
Right
that, but I
now,
don't
now you
think
see
that
the tweets about it and everything, and all the stuff about look, this is what she said, and they won't show the whole statement, right? They'll just show that,
agreed.
and then people
Absolutely.
will put even worse intentions on. If you think the intentions were bad or whatever you think about what she actually said in context, imagine if you only got it out of context.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And probably most people will only get
Yeah,
this one statement. Absolutely. But
right.
I don't think it was wrong to call her out on saying it and for her to make her statement that she misspoke and that she regretted it.
Instead of
I
taking
don't see any
help,
issue.
you don't think that this, well, I shouldn't even ask you the question because I think I know the answer to this. The elected official who started this whole outrage, right? She is doing it because she's trying to make herself famous. So she's not.
I don't doubt that. I don't
So
doubt
she
that.
doesn't care really about the statement. She saw it as an opportunity to get her name in the papers and go viral and have her moment, right? As
It's
opposed to
possible.
trying to accept the help that the governor was offering. I mean, do you think it's smart to pick a fight with the governor and over mincing these words that she's trying to say when she's trying to offer resources to she's trying to bring jobs into your district and you're issuing press releases saying she should be impeached or held accountable, whatever they said, she should be held accountable for the statement. I mean, is that the best way to
Yeah.
get jobs for your kids?
I think it's appropriate in that regard.
Really?
I
You
think
don't think
it,
it'd be more
yeah, I
appropriate
think
to
for
even pull her
integrity's sake, it's
aside and say,
appropriate.
hey, that was kind of an inartful way to express yourself, but we're appreciative of the help you're offering us?
Well, that could be one way of doing it, but it also compounds a line of thinking, a way of talking, a way of upholding stereotypes that has been going on for generations. And so when
Is it a
you
way of
hear those
upholding
things,
stereotypes or trying to smash a stereotype?
no, upholding stereotypes. And you're
She's trying
saying
to say,
that
I want to get you jobs so that this doesn't exist anymore. This phenomenon
you're
doesn't
looking
exist
at
anymore.
only one part of it as well. You're only looking at the
Oh.
part. You're not looking at the generational hurt that phrases like this and statements like this have caused to the Black community and to other underserved communities.
But
So
when the
she's
message
got
is
to
I
be more
want to,
careful.
when the message is I want to help, that's
Yes,
upholding
that message
stereotypes.
is great. That message is great. That message is great. But
That is the message. Right?
that message coming with other statements does not negate that those other statements may be wrong, right? I mean, you can look at statements like that have been made throughout our history. I mean, you could look at how they say, oh, well, we need to take care of them Black folk because, they don't know anything any better for themselves. So we take care of them. Yeah, your intention now is saying that you want to make sure that they have clothing and food and eat, but you're also saying that they're too ignorant to take care of themselves. These types of statements have to be called out and addressed, especially in these days. Now, when her intention or what she was talking about as far as not having access is absolutely true, right? There's nothing wrong with that, and wanting to bring more access in those areas.
Yeah,
But you don't just ignore it,
but don't you
right?
think
Because we have to make sure that these things are talked about correctly. We have to make sure that this is communicated correctly.
by drumming up all this phony outrage over it, don't you think that is actually counterproductive to the actual act of serving the constituent?
No, I
Because
don't
now
think so.
you're causing a fight. You're causing a fight. You're probably making the governor not like you very much. And now next year, when you're fighting for the budget, and maybe you might not get these access, these jobs, these resources that you're that the governor was there offering you last time. But now because you made an enemy out of the governor, you're actually holding your own people back. So you're shooting yourself in the foot.
That sounds like the governor then is vindictive and probably shouldn't be in the office.
But you're the one who started, not you, but the people going
Right.
out, right, causing this outrage are the ones
But
making an enemy out of the governor. And by the way,
if she's
to
going
read
to
that
withhold,
context also, because it isn't simply about being called out righteously for a statement. This is a political hit job, right? This is people who didn't want
it's possible.
in office. I'm telling you, it's more than possible. It's the reality. These people who are behind this didn't support the governor in the first place. They supported her opponents in the Democratic primary. They're looking for
Right.
people to run against her. So they're trying to make a political angle out of this. They're trying to make a
I
political
don't doubt that.
and right, and so you can't say the governor's being vindictive. She's
No,
responding to
no,
a political attack.
no. I'm saying that in the scenario that you brought up,
Yeah,
you're saying that next time the governor might not, if you're doing this, the government might not give that access that she was offering because they started this here. I said in that situation, that means that the governor would be vindictive because those people, those constituents, are still her constituents. And if she doesn't provide the access just because one politician said something that she doesn't like, then that's being vindictive over it. That's a failure on the governor's part. That wouldn't have anything to do with the other one. So
but
that's what I'm talking about.
again,
I'm not talking about in this situation now that she's being vindictive. I'm saying in that
right. No, but I'm
proposed
saying, but the
scenario.
political outrage that you're seeing is performative and it's meant to weaken the governor. And so politics is relational. I mean, if you want, it's for better or for worse, you want to have good relationships with the governor. If you're the local assembly person, yeah, you know what I mean? You want to be on good terms with the governor if you expect to get the resources. This is how the world works.
Sure, but you still hold them accountable.
But so I'm saying, is this the way to do it? Because this doesn't seem like a
I think, yeah, I think it's
productive
fine.
way to help your constituents,
The thing is, they're still her constituents too.
right?
They're still the governor's constituents
But if
too.
you're the assemblywoman,
She still has the responsibility to help those constituents, regardless of what that representative says or not. And if she doesn't, based on what that representative says, then she's the one that's causing the issue. She's vindictive in that case.
it's again, but that presumes that the statement by the assemblywoman is righteous, right?
And no, it doesn't. It doesn't presume that at all. Because if that were the case, the that would be like the Democratic president, Joe Biden, saying, I'm not helping any Republicans at all because everyone on this side has been talking about impeaching me, talking about all of these different scandals, all of this stuff. But because your representatives are saying this stuff about me in the media, in the news, and it's a political hit job because they want my job and they want me out,
Yeah.
because they're saying that, I'm not going to help any Republican constituent or any Republican state. That's exactly what you're saying is that
No,
situation.
no, I'm not saying she's not going to help anyone, but I'm saying that she's damaging those relationships, which does
But they're still her constituents.
it's right, but the assemblywoman has an obligation to look out for her constituents, right? She doesn't have
Sure,
constituents all throughout the state. The assemblywoman has them in the Bronx, and that's an area that needs those resources desperately. When
absolutely.
the governor is reaching out to you and offering you an olive branch and saying, listen, I know you guys in this political clique over here have been trying to get me, whatever, but I'm saying that you guys need these resources and I'm doing this on behalf of the people. Let's put politics aside. And you're saying, as these local assemblywomen and others in the area are saying, we're not going to put politics aside. We're going to continue attacking you and twist your words around and take everything you say and do it out of context, even though you have good messages and you're offering good stuff to us. We're going to disregard that completely and act like you're the devil. Well, that's going to have a negative impact on those constituents.
No, don't disregard it completely. You can
That's what was done.
accept that. You
That
accept
wasn't,
that, but
it
you
was not
still call
accepted.
out
But
for
it was,
what they
that's the
said.
point. It was not. If you read the press release, if you read what's being said, they're only focusing on that one statement she said. They're not saying, but by the way, while that was inartful, we appreciate everything else that she said, and we appreciate the help that she's offering, and we want to tap into this Empire AI program, and all that stuff is good. They're not saying any of that. They're just saying burn her at the stake for this one thing.
Oh, it was not burn her at the stake in the press release.
Maybe we should read the press release.
Yeah, but
They're not saying
it
anything
still
positive.
needs to be.
There's nothing positive in there that they're saying. They're not saying we appreciate the help, and maybe after the fact, I don't know. But when they came out with this, it was all about we're very offended that she said that they don't know how to use computers, or they never heard of computers.
Right. And I agree with that. I don't think they have to swing from her well, I guess she doesn't have nuts, but I was gonna say she
No, they
but
don't need to swing from anything. But how about a nuanced, balanced approach instead of making everything so performative?
well, sometimes it's not just that it's performative. Sometimes it is a continuation of the status quo, and people are tired of the same type of messages being pushed. We look at people like that and like, okay, well, she said this. So to some of her supporters, oh, it's a slight misstep. But for people in this community, for Black people, hearing someone like her say this, it's like, oh, here we go again. It's the same thing over again. That's what you're missing.
The same thing.
We're hearing that.
You want to offer jobs. We want to put
You're
computers.
missing that
That's
same mentality
some of the
again.
substance of what she said, though.
You're missing that whole it's that same snake tongue, that same forked tongue. You say one
Really,
thing on this side, and you say one thing on that
really.
side. That's how it can come off. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Say, but she was saying, let's be clear, right? What she was saying is that she is outraged that these conditions exist on the ground, and she is trying to help. That's what
I
she,
agree.
right?
Great. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So isn't that kind of the end of
Absolutely.
the discussion? I mean, good. We agree with her. Why would anyone issue a press release against her in that case?
Because of what she said.
But we agree that she said the right thing, that she's
We
outraged.
agree that what the conditions she was talking about
Yeah.
exist, and that's correct.
But I'm saying
But
when
what
she
she
says that
said
some
in
people don't
this,
know the word computer, that's part of that same message, right? That I'm
it's
outraged.
not the right message. That's not the right message. Not to say it that way. She could have said
It's
they don't
artful.
have people don't have access
I
here.
agree it's
These
not the best way
communities are
to say it, right? But does it
right.
warrant this reaction?
I think so. Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Really? So you would,
Absolutely.
so
Call
if
her.
given a choice, you would deprive those kids of computers for the sake
It's
of
not depriving them of computers because if in retaliation for someone calling her out on this statement, if she decided that she was going to pull back that support, then she's the one that's being
no,
vindictive.
because they're basically saying we don't want your help. We understand that there's been an issue between us, but you're here saying that the conditions are bad over here.
Now, if they said we don't want your help, that's a different story.
That's
That's
essentially what
completely.
they're saying by not
Now, you
focusing
can't
on.
say essentially.
It is because if she's offering to help and you're not even acknowledging that, you're just like, oh, you said a word that we don't like. Well, then it's
Now,
like, go to hell with your help. That's the message that you receive from that.
you just elevated it to another level.
What do you mean?
No. He's like, go to hell with your help. Like,
That's what.
it's not
Yeah,
what they if they
that's what you
said
get
that, then
out of
that's
that.
a different
That's what you would
conversation.
get out of that. If the governor is there saying we want to bring these
What's the
jobs
what's
and these
the
resources,
what's the
right?
press release? What's the press release? Because now if
Does the
they
press release
told her
mention
that,
anything at all about we're so grateful about the jobs and the AI and the help and the computers?
they
Does it
don't have to
mention any of
swing
that?
from her, they don't have to
That's the
swing
thing.
from her
They've got to
nuts.
acknowledge that they are appreciative of what she's offering.
No, they don't have
Trying
to
to attack
swing
her.
from her nuts.
No, it's not
Um,
swinging. It's not swinging from her
she
nuts.
said the remark was harmful, deeply misinformed, and genuinely appalling.
Yeah, she said that.
That's what Assemblywoman Amanda
Okay.
Septimo said. And again, I'm looking at it from this news article that doesn't have Septimo's full statement. It just has this one line. So um, if she said whatever she said more than this, I don't know. Um, let me see if there's a statement from Septimo.
It was a press.
Um,
I, in fact, saw it on her Instagram. That's how I first heard about this issue. It was on the
let's
Assemblymember's
see.
Instagram. She put out a press release.
Right. Um,
She said she was deeply disturbed by the comments.
Right. Here we go. Here we go. Here's the statement that she posted uh, on May 6th. Governor Hochul's remarks regarding young black children in the Bronx were harmful, deeply misinformed, and genuinely appalling. The Bronx I know and love is full of children who are smart, curious, and eager for opportunities to learn and grow. As leaders in New York, we have a responsibility to uplift all children and help them reach their greatest potential. Repeating harmful stereotypes about one of our most underserved communities while failing to acknowledge the state's consistent institutional neglect only perpetuates systems of abuse. I would invite Governor Hochul to visit us in the Bronx to experience firsthand the intelligence, resilience, and joy that radiate from Bronx children and residents each day.
That's a garbage statement and has no credibility.
Get out of here.
She first of all said things are flatly wrong. The governor is not acknowledging the inequities. Isn't that exactly what the governor was doing in his statement? Wasn't that the whole point of the governor's statement?
Get out of here. This was a very articulate response.
Garbage.
This wasn't.
Nothing in there says we appreciate the help. We want the jobs.
Why does she have to like hang from her nuts?
What is your doing that? That's being nuanced. That's being reasonable.
No, that's appeasement. What is it appeasement?
That's being
you don't have to appease her.
Not being an adult. She's acting like a child.
She's not acting like a child. She's addressing statements like this that have been harmful.
But what you read was false.
How is it false? How is it false?
She said that the governor acknowledged that there are inequities. Isn't that exactly what the governor was doing?
And she said here, repeating harmful stereotypes about one of our most underserved communities. It perpetuates systems of abuse. That's not false. That is true.
Keep reading.
That was it. I would invite Governor Hochul.
No. You said something
in the middle. She said, repeating harmful stereotypes about one of our most underserved communities while failing to acknowledge the state's consistent institutional neglect only perpetuates systems of abuse.
But she was acknowledging the neglect. The whole point was that these communities don't have access to this technology. And with this Empire AI program, she's trying to change that by giving them access for the first time to some of these opportunities and resources. So for her to say the governor is failing to acknowledge the historical neglect is patently false.
But it does say that she's repeating these harmful stereotypes. And she is. That is repeating a harmful stereotype.
But what about the rest of what she said?
What about it?
The governor is not. She said she's repeating the stereotype without acknowledging the inequities, but that's not true.
In the statement, in the rest of the governor's statement, if that was what she, that was what was at least reported in the what was it, NBC article that I said that she was talking about that.
She was talking about Empire AI. This wasn't right out of context. This was the
but the way that she said it was not. It was not something that was addressing it the way that it should have been. She just should not have said that, period.
But you understand
what she's saying was correct about them being underserved. Absolutely.
Right. That's the message. That's what should be talked about. But if you know
you can't throw that out.
About that. The press release doesn't say the governor acknowledged that these communities are underserved and need the help, and we're appreciative of the help that she's offering. We want the jobs. We want the technology. Nothing in there mentioned computers and access to jobs. The press release that they put out was trying to spank the governor for that one part of her statement out of context.
Right. And I, like I said, I agree that the governor needed to be spanked for that statement. Now, what the governor is trying to do, I think, is a good thing. You don't think
that's telling the governor to go to hell, basically?
No, I don't think so. I think it's telling the governor that you need to pay attention to what you're saying. Watch your words. Listen to the community that you're addressing.
That statement, if you wanted that to be taken seriously, I think it needed to be a lot more balanced. I think it would need to say, we appreciate the governor's talk about, these communities being underserved, about the access to the jobs and the resources and all that. We appreciate all that, but, we want to make clear that we don't think that the way she delivered that message was the most artful or something like that. But it doesn't say that. It doesn't.
All things being equal, that would be a very appropriate way of handling, and that's a very prudent response to it. But that also ignores the generations of abuse statements like these harmful types of stereotypical statements have said, and people are tired of tiptoeing around that. And we're in 2024.
Tiptoeing around it, though, if you're trying to address these inequities, her job is not to be performative. Her job is not to be a tweeter. right? Her job is to deliver for her constituents. And so you can
Sure.
say, okay, great, I like the tweet, heart, favorite, yay, retweet, but that's not delivering the resources for the community.
But at the same time, she's representing a community that has been down talked to like this for generations that are tired of hearing these statements that people like Hochul should know better by now. Like it's not, you can't put it on the same equal playing field. This has to be addressed so that look, you can't say these things.
All I'm
And
saying,
now
yeah, whose statement was more balanced? I think the governor's statement was more balanced than that press release.
I think the governor had the responsibility to be more balanced in her statement because she was the one that was putting out that statement. She's the one that did the stated the harmful rhetoric that she put down. That's the one that had the responsibility. The one that's responding to it is not doesn't have the same balance responsibility for balance for calling it out. Now,
Who
could
just
she
said
have
the
could she
governor?
could Amanda Septimo have a political agenda behind it? I wouldn't doubt it. I don't have any sort of reason to doubt that she could. But at the same time, does this type of statement, is this, as she put it, repeating a harmful stereotype? Absolutely. And that's something that happens too often and goes unaddressed or dealt with. And it needs to be dealt with. Now, the governor said, listen, I misspoke. I regret it. To me, okay, now we move on. Now
I
let's
don't
keep
see.
going with it.
I don't think she should have said. Well, what did she say? Exactly what was the governor's response before we get into that? What exactly did?
Um, well, again, I'm looking out at the NBC News, and it said in a statement later Monday, Hochul said, "I misspoke and I regret it. Of course, black children in the Bronx know what computers are. The problem is that they too often lack access to the technology needed to get on track to high-paying jobs in emerging industries like AI.
Right,
That's why I've been focused
right,
on increasing economic opportunity since day one of my administration, and will continue that fight to ensure every New Yorker has a shot at a good-paying job."
perfect. Okay,
Um,
so she sounds like the adult in the room. Fine, I'm okay with that.
that's what she needed to say. That's what
That
she
is what
needed
she
to
said in
say.
the first place. But we're
You
twisting the
cannot
words
say
around.
that someone calling her out for her stereotypical statement is not being the adult in the room. That in
Did you read?
itself
Did you
is
read the quote
ridiculous.
unquote call out? Did you read the call out? It was not balanced. It sounded like it was written by a petulant child.
No, or someone that's been repeatedly harmed by these types of
She
statements.
should resign
That's
her
what you
position. She's not
get.
delivering. That's not how you deliver for your constituents. She wants to be a tweeter,
No, you can't
be a
say
Twitter activist. That's not being an assembly member.
it is if you're representing a population that is repeatedly
You're
being
telling that
talked down
population,
to.
guys, I'm sorry, I guess we're not getting those computers. Oops, because I wanted to tweet at the governor.
That's not the case because the governor still has that responsibility. She still needs to be called out. Can't just let people just
There are artful
continue.
ways to do it. Just like we said, the governor's statement
We've
was
been doing
inartful.
artful ways for generations and still having
Well,
situations
you
like
can't have that
this
both ways. You said the governor was inartful, right? So if you're
because the
critiquing
governor
her,
is in that
if
because
you're
the governor
critiquing
is
the
the one in
governor,
that position.
if you're critiquing the governor for being inartful, then you
Yes.
can't be inartful in your critique. You have to be artful in your response as well.
No. No.
Well, then you have
You
no
do not you do
ground to
not
stand
have
on.
to be you do not have to be artful with the abuser. That's the
Not
point
an
here.
abuser. You're saying she's inartful. You're not saying she's an abuser. You're saying she's an art. Those are two very different
No, no,
things.
you're saying an artful. That was your term. I'm saying, and I agree that this type of statement is something that perpetuates a stereotype about the black community that's gone on for generations. And the people who perpetuate that are people that are like Hochul, in positions like Hochul, that look like Hochul. And you're saying the people that are recipients of that abuse need to be artful in their response to criticizing that abuse.
If
And
they're
that's
calling
patent
her,
bullshit. That's nonsense.
if they're calling her words inartful, which is charitable, right? I'm trying to be charitable to their position. They
No,
need to be
that's
artful in their response because
they
her
don't
message
need to
was
be.
good, right? She had a positive message. They're nitpicking on certain words in there, taking
Because there's a
context.
history. Because there is a history of these types of statements perpetuated against this type of community. You have to take that, and that's why I
She's
said in
trying
the
to help the
beginning,
community. She's helping the community.
it doesn't matter. You have to
It doesn't
take that,
matter.
you have to read that room. You have to understand that.
Again, being artful, right? It's not being an
The
abuser.
governor has that responsibility.
Okay, so that's the whole critique, that she wasn't artful enough in the way she chose her words.
The governor. Now, the
Yes.
response, the criticism of that does not have to meet that same criteria because you're talking about someone who is responding to something that is a historical abuse that they don't have to say, oh, you have to be nice about how you criticize that. No, you're the one that's being abused. You respond how you're going to respond. Now, can you respond in different ways? Absolutely, you can. But the responsibility here is on the governor. That's where that comes from. Now, the lady, I don't know about Septimo. She may have ulterior motives. She may have a mix. I don't know who she is. I don't know where she's from, but she may have different types of motives. But the point is the fact this type of messaging has been problematic for generations in this country. And it's messaging that we spread around the world about this community, about Black people. And the governor has the responsibility to make sure she does not perpetuate these types of messaging. And that is what needs
And
to
it's
be
okay
called.
to respond to that with a lie.
It's okay to respond the way then the what's her name responded.
Really? By just
Yeah.
completely mischaracterizing the words for your own political agenda?
It's not just mischaracterizing the words for no.
Really?
You're completely
You not
missing the
read the
point.
statement? She lied about
I read the statement. I read the statement.
she lied.
She didn't lie.
She said something that was false.
She didn't what?
She
She
said the
talked
government did
about
not acknowledge that there were inequities, right? She said she perpetrated a stereotype without acknowledging the state's lack of delivering for these communities, when the governor's entire point was that the state has failed to deliver for these communities and she was trying to change that. That's not
but you don't do
mischaracterizing.
that by perpetuating stereotypes.
Say it again.
You don't do that by perpetuating
She
stereotypes.
said that the governor perpetuated the stereotype without acknowledging the state's inequities historically.
Right.
The governor was exactly doing
The
that.
governor was talking about how this was well, at least in her response here. I don't know what the government statement beforehand completely was, but at least in this one here.
And that was the original statement that she made.
But the point is that calling her out, there's nothing wrong with calling her out. There's nothing wrong with Hochul responding and apologizing, and then you move forward. I don't think there's a burn her at the stake type of situation at this
Well,
point.
there is a petition on change.org. And again,
Eh,
it's not like these folks who are doing this were supporters of the governor or even neutral about the governor. Well, let's give Hochul a fighting chance. And then, ooh, now we can't support her, right? They didn't like her from the beginning. So let's be clear on that. But I know you didn't see the.
yeah, I don't think a change.org petition is going to do anything
No, it's
here.
not. This is all performative. This is all nonsense, right? But
No, I don't think it's nonsense, but
change.org has a petition, whatever. Did you see the drink champs? No, you didn't see it with
no, I haven't seen
I
that.
haven't seen that. So part of that, which I wanted to get to, was Nori, who, admittedly doesn't know much about politics or whatever. We said that he probably wasn't the best interviewer for this spot. He
Right.
said that as someone who doesn't follow politics, his impression is that Trump is much more hip hop than Biden. And we can take issue with that. I would never say something like that myself, especially when you look at policy, right, and what you're actually trying to achieve. And Nori probably doesn't know much about that because he says he doesn't follow it that deeply. He's looking at it from a very superficial level. And so
Right.
he's looking at the attitude, the way these people's candidates carry themselves and what they say. And again, not so much substance maybe, but the style, the swagger of it. So the main point in that was that the Republicans are unapologetic. They stick to their guns. They don't care what people think about what they're saying. They say, listen, this is what we believe. This is what we say. We said what we said. What are you going to do about it? Vote against us, whatever, fine. But we do our thing. And the perception was that Democrats, and I think Unique made the same point on Nuance here, that Democrats tend to walk on eggshells a little too much. They're a little too careful, a little too cautious. They're quick to apologize if they offend one person or whatever. They don't show that they're, for lack of a better term, willing to swing their nuts as much as Republicans. And voters do pick up on that. And I think
Mhm.
this may be an example of that. Like, what I mean? Like we're trying to point fingers, but trying to play the gotcha game. We're trying to say you said something that you shouldn't have said. We're so offended. We're so. I think that's a big reason why Democrats are losing elections, because they think Republicans, they might not like their policy, they may not agree with their policy, they may not even know their policy, but they think that they have more guts, right? They think that they're more willing to stand, more of a spine, more of a backbone, willing to stand behind what they believe.
Um, yes, and I've pointed this out before. As far as it's kind of inherent in the liberal position, right? That the idea of being in a liberal position is taking in account all these other ideas, beliefs, people's feelings, and this and that. That all of that is in there. Whereas on the conservative side, it can be a little bit more singular focused,
Mm-hmm.
right? We all believe the same thing. We all think this, and we this is the thing is, right? So there's going to be more of a scattered messaging inherent in the liberal sort of space, right?
Do you think it's because
Um,
the policy is more
I
monolithic?
don't think it's the policy. I think it's just because of the ideology itself,
That's
right?
what I mean. The
Conservative is
ideology.
very this conservative ideology itself, just being conservative is very strict and narrow, whereas liberal is very wide and open,
I don't know
right?
if that's the case, though. I mean, I think there are a lot of conservatives who vote Republican. They vote for conservative candidates, but they believe in all different things. Some are religious, right? Some are more libertarian. Some just do it because, like I said, because of the attitude that they perceive. They think that they're, now we hear is that Democrats only cater to coastal elites, or they're playing
Right.
identity politics, or they're too woke, or whatever they say. But some people, think that conservatives is more straightforward. They focus more on regular everyday people. Right now, of course, counter to that is, well, what is a regular everyday person? I mean, does that mean white and middle class and male and straight and all that, right? So, if you're in one of these oppressed groups, you can have a different take on that. But you do sometimes hear that critique of Democrats.
Sure.
They're not strong enough. I mean, even from people on the
No,
left, right? They'll say that.
no, I've said it.
Yeah, that they're just not strong enough. And they don't seem to focus on issues that affect the people as much, right? They'd rather get into these discussions like we just had for almost an hour about did Kathy Hochul use the right words, whereas whatever happened to fighting for Medicare or Social Security or a living wage, healthcare, things like that, bread and butter issues. I feel like there's a feeling that Democrats have gotten too far away from that.
And in many ways, I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I've said it before too, that Democrats are a little bit more spineless than Republicans and conservatives. But I think it's more about well, not more, but I think what contributes to that is that inherent nature of actually caring, right? If you don't care, you can be very steadfast in
Right.
whatever your opinion is, right? If you care, then you're going to take the time to address the grievances from a variety of different places. If you don't care, then it's just like, well, this is what we're doing. It doesn't matter what you think. For example, I'm sure there are a lot of Republican or women on the right that have issue with not having access to abortion. There may be some, but the overall movement is like, I don't care what you think. This is what we're doing, right? Whereas if it was the liberal side, people would sit there and try to take into account these different ideas and mold these ideas over. And that's what I mean by it's kind of inherent in this in the liberal ideology versus the conservative
I see what you
ideology.
mean. So I see.
Yeah.
So when you say ideology, you don't even mean on any particular issue. You're just talking about
No,
basically what it means inherently to think that way. Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
You
yeah.
you're more empathetic, more compassionate. You take more things into account, and
Right,
that's what
right.
it is. And that's
Yeah,
one of the things that makes it difficult when people say we want liberals to be uh more like conservatives in the way that they approach. It's like because then you're taking out a little bit of the
yeah.
essence of
Of
what
what it
that
means.
means.
Yeah,
And it's like, okay, well then you're just going to be more dogmatic in the way that they're being on
right,
this side, and what makes you that much that
right, right.
much different,
Because
you
liberal
know?
means free, right, at its root. So
Right.
it's the idea of, well, there's room to have debate and freedom of thought,
Right.
freedom of speech and expression. We can build beat all different ways.
Right.
Right. So So to say, well, we're not gonna care. We're gonna be callous and have that attitude that they have. Well, I don't care what you think. That kind of defeats
Right.
the purpose of being liberal in a certain way.
Right. And you know, and again, it can be sluggish. It slows the process down. It muddies the waters because there's just so many different voices.
Yeah.
But this is what this is, and then this is what conservative is. And that I think is where some of that comes from. That's why they're gonna look stronger. They're definitely gonna look
Yeah.
stronger.
And
Because we value strength like that in society. We don't value compassion as a strength as much as we value someone standing up to something or
it's more how
someone
we
pushing.
define what it means to be strong.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I
So,
mean, this idea that, Nori said, and he wasn't wrong to have this perception as a political outsider. Again, he's not putting any policy into
right.
it, not digging deep into it. He's looking at it very surface level
Right.
and saying Trump looks more hip hop than Biden in his attitude. And I can see what he means by that.
I can see what he means by that, but I would disagree. And it's funny, like part of it is messaging, and we've said this a bunch of times in messaging the way the Democrats get it off. And there was an Instagram post from Plies, another rapper, who just went off on Biden in a rant recently, and because Biden had posted on Twitter about this the series of tariffs that he put on goods made in China, so that he's determined to ensure that America leads in the world in these industries, and so he put these tariffs on China for goods coming in so they don't undercut American products.
Mm.
And so Plies' point was, why are you putting this in the tweet? Why aren't you on camera in front of the world, in front of the country? Let the world know that you're doing this stuff. This is the problem with Democrats, is the messaging. You talk about our messaging is getting lost, but you're putting it in a tweet instead of on camera, whereas Trump and the conservatives, they're on a camera every chance they get, letting people know whatever it is that they think.
Yeah.
Like, basically let your nuts hang. Like, you just did something really good for the people of the country. Let them know, let them hear it. That type of thing.
No, I agree. And getting back to the Drink Champs interview, Nori was saying that Trump would go to a Chick-fil-A, I think, and he's like, I wish Biden would go to Roy Rogers, go to some chicken places in the hood. All right, but if he does that, they're going to say he's like Hillary with the hot sauce and pandering. So,
Right. Yeah.
and again, I think
But
it goes back to Trump is allowed to do that because maybe his base doesn't hold that against him for doing something like that. Whereas if a Democrat were to do it, it's they get criticized by all these different groups.
right, it has to be, yeah, I'm sure there's a way to do it that doesn't sound like pandering, right? It has to be a part of who you are. Like what Hillary did, I mean, the way she even said it and the way her body language after, like with the hot sauce particularly,
Yeah.
it did seem like pandering, right? And she may carry hot sauce everywhere she goes. She's
I
from
think she
Arkansas.
actually does, right? I think
Yeah, she's from Arkansas. Like that
yeah,
would
I
not
think
be
that was the thing
strange.
of it. She actually wasn't pandering, but she just didn't know how to
Right.
say anything that didn't come off that way because she was so stiff as a politician. But
Right. If she would have said, like, she's like, what? I'm from Arkansas. What are you talking about? Like, then that would have been, it would have been genuine because we know, oh, yeah, that's right. You are from the South. Like, yeah, like
yeah,
that would have been a little bit, yeah. So, and there was another tweet. Biden posted, Jill and I joined the people of Buffalo in honoring the memories of the 10 souls stolen from us in the unconscionable act of hatred against the black community 2 years ago. And he had a proclamation that he put it out, talking about, I want you to know that you remain in my prayers. And he put this in a tweet. And so in that rant, Plies is like, see, why aren't you on TV letting us know that you were there? Why didn't you say this on camera from Buffalo?
yeah.
Right? So
I think you
people
can do
know that
both.
you're on the ground.
Some people are not looking at TV anymore. Some people are only looking at the tweets, but you can do both.
Right, you can do both. But what it does is it lets people know you're out there, you're on the ground, right? No one knows where Kamala Harris has been for the 4 years that they've been in office. She could be on the ground and she could be doing great work. And we've seen the statistics that the administration is doing really good work. It's just, how are they letting people know?
What I've heard on that is they don't want her to be out there because they actually don't like her. There's still bad blood from that first debate that she had with him. And so
Ouch.
this goes back to, you can call it vindictive, right? But this is the reality of human nature. There's bad blood. She was chosen to help the ticket win, yes, but I think from day one, and again, this is just what I've been told from
Right.
sources, that they wouldn't let her in on meetings. They don't want to give her anything. They've completely built a wall around her. And don't involve her in anything because they don't want her to gain visibility and potentially be a formidable candidate for president. They want
That's
to end her career as VP. So
that would be a failing. That would be a political failing, in my opinion, because she could be a very strong asset. And she
yeah,
wasn't very likable with a lot of people, even with the black community. But in her historic win, in her position, and just having a strong administration in itself is excellent optics. I mean, one of the great images of the Obama Biden administration was the relationship that they had, how
yeah.
close that they appeared to be,
Oh
and
yeah,
the
he's not
genuineness
having
that.
lunch with her every Friday or whatever, like he had with
Right,
Obama when he was president. That's not happening.
right.
I believe she's not even allowed into the meetings. Like that's just
Yeah, I think that to me that would be that's to their detriment. I think they would have an easier time in their election if we saw that they had like this great relationship
right.
and that they really genuinely cared. I mean, Biden was having trouble paying his mortgage or something, and Obama came out of pocket and like, no, you're not losing your house, bro. Like that type of relationship in the administration would go a long way
Yeah,
in this
that's
next
right.
election, I think.
That's not a thing with them. Right.
No, no, it's
As
not.
far as I know, they do not like each other. Can't stand each other one bit. So,
Jesus. Yeah.
so this is where we're at. I just wonder if it's not possible for us to have more of, I don't know if attitude is the right word, but something that makes us appeal to people out there who are thinking that Democrats are too weak, because that's what we're hearing, that
Right.
Democrats are
No, absolutely.
right, that they're weak. They don't stand on their convictions. They'll bend too easily.
Right.
They right, like again what we saw with the governor. Although I thought the governor's statement was fine, and to say that she chose the wrong words, but this kind of thing will keep happening, right? And it's
Right.
also, I think, a matter of Democrats being too quick to eat each other. I mean, Republicans don't do that as much. I mean, sure, you've got people who go against Trump getting primary and things like that, but you always see them seem to come together and be unified as Republicans, whereas you don't see that as much with the Democrats. I mean, a big reason why Hillary lost, right? Because a lot of the Bernie voters didn't want to vote for her in the general election. That didn't
Right.
happen. Even most of the people who were against Trump in the primaries still voted for him in general, right? They got that together a lot more than the Democrats did.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, and
is there not a
it's
way? Is there not a way to be a Democrat and basically be more of an old school guy who's like, listen, I'm not going to deal with all this pettiness. I am who I
yeah,
am. I'm unapologetic for what I stand for. I stand for trying to help the people. You know what I mean? I'm a Democrat because I want a living wage, because I want a strong workforce. I'm pro
yep,
union. Right. I want to
right.
strengthen Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security, and I want to have expanded healthcare access. All these bread and butter issues. And why can't we get
Right.
back to that and say, look, this is what we are. This is what we stand for. And so other stuff is just noise, and we're not going to fall for it.
I think we can do that, but basically, and this is, I guess, this is the running thing for the show is Democrats just have to let their nuts hang a little bit more, and stand on their records.
Yeah.
Whereas Republicans, and we're even seeing a lot of Republicans pointing out now, they haven't really passed anything. They haven't really done anything but block and create controversy. Democrats have been getting some work done. And if they come out and stand on that, repeat that, keep putting that out there, they have to market that
Right.
basically.
Right. Because what's
Let the
happening
nuts.
is the work, the actual substance of what's happening is not
Yeah.
being talked about. It's not even being
Right,
seen. It's being
right,
completely ignored. And the whole narrative, the whole conversation is the culture war. And it's about, all
right,
kinds of stuff that is a distraction from the actual work, the actual meat and potatoes
right.
that's being done. And that is playing into the Republicans' hands. I think most
Yeah,
voters out there are like, listen, I don't know what Democrats are doing, but the stuff that y'all talking about, like, I'm not with it.
right. And I think that's all. I think that would go a long way for Democrats in general. Stand on the record and keep putting out the record. And like I said, let your nuts hang a little bit. We should probably need a t-shirt. Let your nuts hang.
Mm,
Biden 2020. So, but yeah, I mean that's basically, I think, which would help a lot, because Democrats could need something that shows that they have been putting in work, and that they're not as pushover as they seem. And listen, they're getting the whole freaking lunch aid constantly. The last 15 years, right? So many things we've lost,
Mhm.
right? Not just the Roe v. Wade, but the voting repeal, um, Citizens United, it's all this stuff that just keeps going back and back and back. They are losing ground. They've got to come out swinging. They've got to do it. And you don't have to be petty like the rest. You can stand on business. It's like, this is what we've been doing. Let's try to make this thing happen. We're going to fight to get this stuff back.
Yeah, yeah. Well, to me, it's alarming when someone says that the other side is coming off as more hip hop than us.
Yeah, I don't like that. That also kind of harkens to and I forget who said it. It might have been one of the Fox people that said that Trump being in court and having all these court cases makes him more appealing to black voters because he's like them because he's going through all this court case. And it's like that type of nonsense. Like, no,
That
stop.
is not entirely inaccurate, right? Historically, you do see that to be the case. The candidates do get more support from black voters when they're in trouble, when they're even if it's an investigation or a scandal, right? Because they say it looks as if they're being persecuted, like Trump keeps saying.
But I don't think that makes him closer to black people because of that. There's some people that will fall into that, but the majority of people still look at it as him being held accountable.
The majority, sure, although I think we have to worry about what happens at the margins, right? I mean, if he's able to get, for example, a 5% bump with any demographic, that could be enough to push him over the top because it's so close.
Yeah, I don't think that it's I don't buy that way of thinking that as far as that it makes him more appealing to black voters because he's going through court cases. That's stereotypical
Yeah,
nonsense.
I think it's more, though, like what Nori said, the attitude. And it's not just with Trump. I think it's more the Republicans are holding themselves out as, like you said, they don't care. But it's more, listen, this is what we believe in, and we're not going to bend the knee. We're going to fight for it,
Right.
regardless of what you say, right? And I think people want to see that. I think just generally speaking, people want to see, like you said, nuts hanging, right? They want to see that you have
Right.
balls.
It's that position where you grabbing your sack and your middle finger to the camera, like, yeah.
That's that right. We associate that with hip hop, but it's the attitude of not caring, right? Not caring what people think, not caring what society thinks, or the politically correct way to do something. It's just this is what we are, this is who we are, and we're gonna do it whether you like it or not.
Yeah. I don't think he's hip hop, but yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
agree.
I
But
could see people saying that,
that's not
yeah.
looking at the policy and everything else. But
Yeah.
when you look at the attitude, and that's a problem. I think that you know what that represents to me, that Democrats have fallen out of touch with everyday people, that they've become
Mm,
too associated with elites, right?
mm,
And they say coastal elites, but that's kind of the impression now that
mm,
you're. I think Adams on the show called it the New York Times crowd, right? But people
mm.
who are stereotypically more affluent, who are in certain pockets of the city or of the country, if you want to expand it, who are, as most people would probably consider, elites, right? Maybe they have a lot of money, a lot of access, they're wealthy, they don't have the same problems that most people have, they can't relate to the problems of most Americans.
Mm.
I think that's the impression now that many have of Democrats, that they cater to these elites and not to the rest of America.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of historically been the argument, right?
Well, it hasn't been historically. I would say in the past 10, 15 years, it's been.
But I mean, like as far as the people that New York and LA,
Right.
that they're catering basically to the New York, LA people, and the people in the middle can't relate to that type of stuff.
Sure, sure. Although Democrats used to be known as the party of the working man, working,
Right.
right? The Republicans were known as the party of big business, right? Because they
Right.
used to give tax breaks to the wealthy and that kind of thing.
And they still do,
They
yeah.
still do, right? But the perception has somehow shifted. And I think a lot of people are looking at Republicans as fighting for the everyday person, even though the policies don't bear that out. Maybe it's in the attitude, it's the way that things are being discussed. But the Democrats are now looked at as only catering to elites, not your everyday
Right.
person, right? So if you're trying to get a living wage, if you're trying to get health care, these are all policies that you would think you would want Democrats in office because they're going to fight for it. But
Right.
for whatever reason,
And they have fought for it.
they
Yeah.
have. But the way that these issues are being discussed, many people seem to think that Republicans are more aligned with their interests.
Right. Some people have fallen for the okey doke. So yeah,
But it's
Democrats need to
incumbent
get
on us, just
that
like you
message.
said. The governor has a responsibility. I mean, we all have a responsibility to not allow that perception to
Sure.
prevailing view, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, well, we do have a poll from last week.
Okay.
Before we wrap up here, I think we've gone extra long today. Um, our poll last week when we were talking about the vandalism that took place on the World War One statue in New York City, with the pro-Gaza, pro-Palestinian spray painted messages. Mayor Adams put up $5,000 of his own money for information leading to the arrest of whoever the vandal was. That's in addition to the 10,000 that Crime Stoppers was offering. But he came out of his own pocket. And so our poll question was, how do you feel about Mayor Adams offering money out of his own pocket for information leading to the arrest of a vandal? And this was a little different because we didn't do yes, no this time. I gave I gave the options of it seems like a PR stunt, it makes him a man of the people, and I'm not sure. And so 59% said it seems like a PR stunt, whereas the remaining 20% were split between it makes him a man of the people and I'm not sure. So
Right.
it seems like most people looked at it as a PR stunt.
And that's the other thing, whether it is or it isn't, people are going to look at things cynically, right?
Right.
Especially in the climate that we're in. And I think
Sure.
all these discussions need to have that context in mind as well. So
Right.
going back to the early one, even if people think that there is validity in the press release, the attacks on the governor, and maybe let's say that there is, let's say it is coming from a place of righteousness, entirely with no political agenda. Well, people are going to look at it like it's only coming from a place of political opportunism, and I think all kinds of messages are prone to getting lost in that cynicism that is just so widespread right now.
Sure. Absolutely. One other comment said if his heart was in the right place, he'd be donating dollars to the libraries he's defunded.
So he's got to give money to everyone now.
Well, yeah, but the question remains is like, why this one issue?
Right.
Why this one issue you're going to put $5,000 on? You know,
Because he's trying to show that he's strong on Israel, which isn't
I
really
think that's
that.
part of it.
It isn't really that, but it relates to it, right? Because these were protesters. They were pro-Palestinian protesters,
Right.
right? Yeah.
I think it's part of it. I think it also could be sending a message to people who look to do further actions and further protests.
Right.
That look, we're gonna, we're not gonna let this get out of hand, type of thing. Um, Someone else, what do we say? I feel the same way I felt yesterday that Adams is a buffoon and has no idea what the F he's doing wrong. What the F is wrong with people in NYC.
Wow.
He doesn't know what he's doing. Um, well, here's another one. Perhaps Mayor Adams is sincere as he makes this offer, depending, of course, on the source and the definition of his own money. And perhaps he's not a divisive jerk for suggesting today that immigrants could fill NYC's lifeguard jobs as they are good at swimming. Perhaps. What? Did he say something like that?
Oh, I thought the commenter was saying that. He's saying that Adam said that.
He said, and perhaps he's not a divisive jerk for suggesting today that immigrants could fill NYC's lifeguard jobs as they are good at swimming. Did he say that? Did he
Didn't hear about that
suggest
one.
that?
I didn't hear about that one.
Wow. I would definitely have to look that up afterwards. Um, wow. That is actually true. Um, NBC News, NYC Mayor Eric Adams proposes immigrants as solution to lifeguard shortage because they are, quote, excellent swimmers.
Where does that come from?
Um,
Is he actually making a joke about them crossing the Rio Grande? Is that what that means?
I don't know.
It's a very
I
bizarre.
don't know. Yeah. Well, it's yeah, we'll have to get into to
We
take
gotta
a
look at
look
the
at that.
context, I suppose. I don't know what context could save him there, but to be fair, we want to see the
Right.
totality of what was said, I suppose.
Right, we'll have to look at that
Yeah.
because yeah. So back to the poll, I had another one said it didn't vote, it's undoubtedly a publicity stunt. And then some other people just kept going in on how did NYS get him as a mayor.
Now,
Um,
also, if it is a publicity stunt, does that make it bad? I mean, could it be both? Could it be yes, a publicity stunt, but he's the mayor? Of course, he's looking for publicity, but it's still a good thing to do.
hmm. Yeah. So at least the people that commented definitely were of those that were more on the PR stunt side. People that thinks that he's a man of the people did not seem to respond. Um,
Yeah, that's how
which we use,
it normally
yeah, usually
goes.
how it goes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so about 59% believes that this was a PR stunt. And it could be, and it does beg the question of why this issue. Like the first comment saying that why didn't he just, if he's sincere, why didn't he give it to the libraries that, the people needed? Why. So
Well, there you go. It seems like no matter what you do in politics, you're going to get a pushback from somebody saying, "How come it wasn't me?" Or "How come we said it like that?"
right, right. And yeah, I mean that's kind of the nature of it. So
Yeah. So for a poll for this week, I was actually thinking of something related to that first discussion. I was thinking something along the lines of the gotcha game. Are people tired of the gotcha game? Um, I know cancel culture is played out as a topic, right? Everyone wants to talk about cancel culture, but I think people are again getting back to why Democrats are losing. I think there's this idea that they're focused too much on things like that, right? That they're focusing on canceling someone instead of actually having an adult conversation about what the person is trying to achieve, or for that matter, achieving anything, right? Because that becomes the whole conversation. And so I think we want to poll kind of asking people's thoughts on that issue.
yeah, I mean, how would you want to phrase that? I personally think the whole cancel thing is past for the most part. I don't think it's like, I
But
think it's
isn't
being
that kind of
more,
what we saw with Governor Hochul here? They were trying to cancel her, right?
nah, I don't think,
For a
I don't
misstep.
think we've seen
That's what it is.
anybody be canceled. I don't think we've seen anybody be canceled in like a long
Well,
time.
what does it mean? They're not a TV show. They can't be canceled, but it's a way of trying to attack someone and basically discredit their whole existence over
Yeah, but that
a misstep.
generally when someone gets canceled or when it at the height
Yeah.
of the cancel pandemic, they would just go away. Like you just, Kevin Spacey, when his stuff came up and they canceled him, like you haven't seen him since. Like he can't get work, he can't do
He
anything.
just endorsed RFK or something like that.
Oh, I don't know. And that was a whole thing. Yeah, Trump just came out attacking RFK. Anyway, it's like, dude, he's trying to help you. Like, chill out. Like, anyway,
But
but
that was my
yeah.
trying
So,
to help. The governor's trying to help. Chill out. But they're
so
just trying to cancel her over the comments.
yeah, it's a different situation.
It's still, I think it still reminds people of that phenomenon, though, right? Of we're not focused on the issues. You ask anyone out there watching right now, watching the replay, right? They're saying, how come people in office are not focused on the issues? How come we're only talking about this kind of stuff, about distractions from the actual issues? And even when there is a natural issue, the whole conversation is centered around did you choose the right words? It's like it's a minefield. It's the gotcha game, and it's not the business of serving the people.
Well, some issues are different for other people. So that type of rhetoric is an issue for certain communities because that's been uh, historically harmful for those communities. So it becomes a real issue for them. For people who don't see it as an issue, then that in itself can
But you
be,
but you have to see it again the context of it when the governor is saying, "I am here to help address this issue."
yeah.
Right? The whole conversation isn't about her helping address the issue. The whole conversation is about impeach her for the words that she chose in
I
trying.
didn't say impeach her. We're going too far.
That was the petition thing.
Anyway, we need a poll, or we'll be here another hour.
Well, is it
We,
is it the gotcha game? I mean, is Is the
What's the
gotcha
poll?
game?
What do you think on the poll?
Do you think the gotcha game is distracting us from the real issues? Something along those lines.
I guess we can rock with that. See what people think about that.
Something like, do you think the prevalence of the gotcha game in politics is too prevalent to the point it detracts from solving actual problems?
Or yeah, you think yeah, is politics more focused on uh yeah, the gotcha game than uh the real issues or something like that.
Right, right.
Has it devolved to that or something? I don't know. Yeah, so I
And
think
you're
you're
right.
close to good wording.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
So
So let it rip. Let it
let's
rip.
try this. The question of the week is, do you believe that the prevalence of the gotcha game in politics is detracting from the actual business of solving problems?
All right. And I think that we can leave it at that. We will have we'll put that up and see what the people think and it's interesting to get the comments
Right.
instead of just answers to the poll. I like when there are comments to get people's ideas and their feedback and what they're thinking and how they're interpreting things. So,
Yeah, yeah. And I think Brohan gave us a bottom line. I don't know. I asked him to give a bottom line. I don't know if it was a bottom line, bottom line.
I think he kind of did.
He basically said people got to be careful, right? The governor's got a lot of eyes on her. She's got to know that she's going to be on.
Right. I think, yeah, when you're in positions such as the governors and in those of authority and responsibility over um, a lot of people, it's not just a job. There's that responsibility that comes to it, and so you have to be careful
Yeah,
about how you say things, how you deliver things, how understand how they will be received, and you have to, take that responsibility to heart. And so we so see that we get into a cycle or we get comfortable in certain positions and forget what the importance of that position is, right? So a governor doesn't have the same responsibility to the people that someone that's, delivering newspapers might have. So your position's going to carry a little bit more weight. It's going to have more of a burden or more of a responsibility to be fair and to understand how your words can be taken and what the effect that they can have. So got to be more mindful of that and, be willing to work with that and walk in that responsibility.
at the same time, be the governor of New York. Be New Yorkers. Have attitude and say, you know what? I said what I said. I'm here to help the people. You don't like it? All right.
You want Hochul to let her nuts hang?
Yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, come on. Like let's be New Yorkers again. Whatever happened to that?
I don't know. You- just had that image. You've seen those the truck nuts, where
Yeah,
it's like the
yeah,
nuts
yeah.
that hang off of the hitch. Just imagine like Hochul walking in and just like having some of those hanging off her belt, just like letting her nuts hang. Like I don't know, it'd just be
I think
hilarious.
that attitude will go a long way, not just with her, but I think you'll get a lot more support that way if you show that you're not going to play these games.
Perhaps.
So,
Yeah, perhaps. So,
all right,
all
well,
right, and go ahead.
find us wherever things can be found in the world, right?
Wherever things can be found in the world, yes, YouTube and all of that. So hit us up, leave some comments, you know, your thoughts, your opinions, and yeah, catch us here as
All right.
well.
As always, we've got work to do. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to Rohan. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you next time. Later.